Hi, this is my neuromuscular video. Before we got started, I washed my hands and gathered my equipment, so now I'm going to start my exam. So first I'm going to scan the room real quick, make sure there's no HIPAA violations. You seem to be good. Hi, my name is Justin McIntyre, and I will be your student nurse for the day. So before we get started, I wanted to have your permission to record you. Do we have your permission?
Yes.
Great. So can you state your name for me?
I'm Jada McIntyre.
Jada McIntyre, how old are you?
17.
17. So as I stated, my name is Justin McIntyre. Today I will be performing a neuromuscular exam on you. So this details like some reflex tests, orientation tests, speech tests, and we're going to do a couple of those. So before we get started, have you had any issues with your neuromuscular system? For example, have you had any conditions such as myopathy or multiple sclerosis?
No.
No? Okay, great. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is assess your cognitive, your orientation and alertness. So what's your name?
Jada McIntyre.
Where are you at right now?
We are at our house.
And what are you participating in?
I am getting a neuromuscular exam.
All right, so I'm going to say your orientation is ×4, your alertness and orientation is ×4 because you knew where you were at, you knew your name, and you knew what we were doing in your alert conversating with me. Great. So now how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay. So subjectively, her mood seems to be happy, and that's what she told me, and by viewing her behavior, I can objectively say that she seems to be happy. She's smiling. She seems content, relaxed. She's dressed for the weather. It's hot outside today in shorts, t-shirt. Yeah, you look very happy.
Thank you.
Great. So now I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. What would you do, can you tell me a similarity between a lake and an ocean?
They're both bodies of water.
They are, okay. And what would you do if you were driving and a firefighter truck had their sirens on and they were trying to get past you?
I'd pull over to the right.
Okay, pull over to the right. So in that conversation, her cognitive ability seems to be high. She was very articulate with her words, very detailed in her answers. She spoke very clear and I could understand everything she said. So we're performing the Glasgow Coma scale now. And so the first thing we're going to assess is your eye movements. And throughout this interview, examination, your eyes have been moving spontaneously, blinking at the baseline. So therefore you have received the full 4 points for that test. And then next we're going to look at your verbal skills, and we've already assessed that you can answer questions, you're oriented, you're here, so that's 5 points. And then lastly, the motor, your motor skills or your motor response. I'm going to ask you to do something. Can you smile and shake your head from side to side for me? Great. So you can follow a voice command, you can obey my command, and you do a movement with it, a motor movement. So that's 6 points. The verbal was 5 points, and the eye movement was 4 points. So altogether, you've received your full 15 points, which is exactly what we're looking for. So next, we're going to be moving on to assess your cranial nerves. The first 3 cranial nerves that we will be assessing are the oculomotor nerve, the trochlear nerve, and the abducens nerve. All these are cranial nerves. The oculomotor nerve is the 3rd cranial nerve. It's a motor nerve. The trochlear nerve is the 4th cranial nerve. It's also a motor nerve. And the abducens is the 6th cranial nerve, and it's also a motor nerve. So to assess these, I will be performing PERLA, and I will also be performing the positions test. So the first thing I'm going to do is assess the size of your pupils. So your left pupil has a size of 3, and your right pupil also has a size of 3. So both your pupils are round and the same size. So now I will be shining a light. I want you to stare off past my shoulder, gaze past me, and I'm going to shine a light in each of your eyes. All right, so when I did that, when I shine the light in your right eye, or your left eye, both your right and left constricted. And when I shine the light in your left eye, both your right and left constricted. So that's a good, or that's a normal finding. So then now we're going to perform the positions test, and I am going to, I'm going to, you're going to follow the top of the pin with your eyes, all right? All right. So your eyes move smoothly, they move together, synchronous, and so there was no sign of nystagmus. Then finally, I'm going to have you stare at the top of this pin, and I'm going to move in closer to your nose and follow the pin. All right. So when I did that, both your eyes converged and your pupils restricted, which are normal findings. So now I'm going to assess the cranial nerve number 7, which is the facial nerve. This is a sensory and a motor nerve. On this, for the sensory portion of this nerve, you should be able to taste on the anterior portion of your tongue, which is 2/3, and on this portion, you will be able to taste salt, sweet, and sour. For the motor part, I want you to smile. I want you to frown, puff out your cheeks, and raise your eyebrows. So from this, I can tell. So all the movements were symmetrical, and there were and I could not see any abnormalities or any face droopings. So now the next cranial nerve that we're going to test is cranial nerve number 11, and for this, this is your spinal nerve. So what I'm going to, this is a motor nerve. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to. Do you mind if I touch your shoulders and your face? All right. So I want you to resist against my. I want you to shrug up and resist against my pressure. Okay. So that your shoulder shrug, the strength was equal and bilateral. So that. So now I'm going to touch your. I want you to turn into my hand. I'm going to touch your cheek now. I want you to turn your head into. I'm gonna apply pressure. I want you to turn against it. Okay. 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 So again, the strength was equal and bilateral. When I resisted against your shoulder shrug, that was testing your trapezius. When I applied pressure and had you resist against my, when I resisted against your head turn, that was testing your sternocleidomastoid. All right. So do you mind if I touch your arms? Okay. So I'm going to palpate your arms and see if there is any. I don't see any deformities. I don't see any inflammation or redness. Do you feel any pain in your arms, wrist, elbows, fingers at all?
No, nurse.
No. So she doesn't feel any pain. There's no inflammation. There's no redness. So that's a good sign. I'm going to test your hand strength now. So I want you to squeeze my hands with both. Okay. So the strength was equal and bilateral. Shrug against my hands. Okay. And then again, strength equal bilateral. Can you put your hands above your head? All right. Can you put your hands behind your back? All right. And can you do arm circles for me? All right. So she has full range of motion in both her arms and her shoulders. So now I'm going to palpate your leg the same way I did your arm. Do you mind if I touch your leg? All right. So if you stick your leg out for me. All right. And we're going to start at the knee. And I'm going to palpate the knee. Off the bat, I don't see any deformities. Do you feel any pain in your knee, your leg, your ankle, your foot, your toes? I don't see any inflammation. I don't see any redness. You can put your leg down. Do you have any numbness or tingling in your legs? Cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test your foot for plantar reflection. And I'm going to do that by taking a reflex hammer and placing it and running it up your foot to see if you have plantar reflex. I'm going to put gloves on. All right. And I'm going to, you can give me your foot again. All right. run this up your foot. Okay, so there is plantar reflex in the foot. When I put the hammer and went up her foot, her toes curled down toward the heels. So now I'm going to test your plantar and dorsiflexion. I'm going to do that by applying tension to your, applying resistance to your feet. So I'm going to have it on the top of your toe. I want you to lift your toes up towards your nose, and then I'm going to apply it from the bottom of your feet, and I want you to make your toes go down to your heels. So, all right. So now we're going to test the plantar flexion of the feet. So, all right, if you could lift your toes up towards your nose, okay, and if you could make your toes go down towards your heels, okay. So in both instances, the the strength was equal and bilateral. I got to mention that the plantar reflex that she had when I ran the reflex hammer up her foot showed negative signs of Babinski. So for the final portion of this test, we will be testing your motor and cerebellar. So for the final part of this exam, we will be testing your motor and cerebellar systems. So the first thing I want you to do is take your hands, all right, and you're going to pat them on your lap like this. All right, I'll go faster. Close your eyes. Go faster. Okay, good. Now I want you to take one finger and put it on your nose while the other one's out, and I want you to switch. And switch. All right, faster. Close your eyes. Faster. All right, stop. All right, so you were coordinated. Everything was symmetric. Everything worked bilaterally. So everything looked good, coordinated. Now I want to test your posture and your gait. So I want you to stand up. All right. And I just want you to walk. I want you to start at the wall, and I want you to walk to me, and then walk back. Just walk regularly. All right. So when she walked, you could see that her arms didn't swing a lot, but her arms did swing oppositely. She was straight. She was erect. That was her posture. Steady. There was no shuffling. And so for the last portion of this exam, we are going to be performing the Romberg test. So I want you to stand still. I want you to close your eyes. And I got you. So if you fall out, I'll catch you. I just want you to close your eyes and stand still for 20 seconds. So she's minimizing swaying. She's staying steady. There's no abnormalities in this portion of the test. So this concludes the exam. I'm going to have her sit down. I'm going to wash hands, make sure I provide patient safety, and take care of the closing measures, record my data, and this concludes the exam. Thanks for working with me. See you in the next video.